Welcome back, everyone, to another week of knowledge from the Underwriting Guy. This week, we're going to be discussing stocks, stock options, bonds, mutual funds, and retirement accounts for assets. We're going to discuss how much percentage we can use for reserves, and we're also going to talk about when we must document for liquidation. The liquidation part I feel is very important as many mortgage professionals try to document liquidation when we don't necessarily need to document for liquidation. This week we'll just be touching conventional Fannie Mae guides on this topic. So let's dive in. The guideline states vested assets in the form of stocks, government bonds, and mutual funds are acceptable source of funds for the down payment, closing costs, and reserves, provided their value can be verified. The lender must verify the borrower's ownership of the account or asset, the value of the asset, and any related documentation must meet the outline table that we're going to discuss. The documentation that needs to be provided when using stocks and mutual funds for closing. The lender must determine the value of the assets, net any margin accounts by obtaining either the most recent monthly or quarterly statement from the depository or investment firm, or a copy of the stock certificate with a newspaper stock list that is dated as of near the date of the loan application. The second option I have never seen provided to me. If you're using stock options, we will need to document the vested value by a statement that lists the number of options and option price, and using the current stock price to determine the gain that would be realized from the exercise of an option and the sale of the option's stock. I don't think I have ever seen government bonds used for documentation for an asset. But personally, if I have see it on one of my files, I would want the government bond to be sold and would want a paper trail of the government bonds if we were using it for closing. The value of the government bonds must be based on their purchase price unless the redemption value can be documented if using government bonds. Now let's talk about retirement accounts. This type of asset we will see most of the time compared to the others that we discussed previously. For retirement accounts, vested funds from the individual retirement account are acceptable sources of funds for the down payment, closing costs, and reserves. The lender must verify the ownership of the account and confirm that the account is vested and allows withdrawals, regardless of the current employment status. Let's talk about liquidation and using the funds for reserves. I've seen time and time again that mortgage professionals try to show liquidation when we do not need to show liquidation, which in turn adds frustration to everyone. If you have more than 120% of the down payment in your asset, then Fannie Mae states you do not have to show liquidation before closing. Which means, let's say your closing cost and down payment is 100,000. If your borrower has at least $120,000 in their account, they do not have to liquidate this account before closing. Here's another pro tip for mortgage professionals. If your borrower has to liquidate the funds before closing, see if your borrower can directly liquidate the funds to title. And then all we would need in underwriting is the wire confirmation to prove they liquidated it to title, and as long as the account numbers match, we should be all good. This would prevent us from going back to the borrower and getting transaction histories to document the move of funds. For reserves, all of these types of accounts, we can use 100% of the vested balance. I know it used to be 70% about 2 years back, but it's not anymore. It's 100%. Well, that wraps up this week, guys. It's Thanksgiving week, so I hope everyone enjoys these times with friends and families. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And see you guys next time.